You own this. Every home kitchen has one, but professional chefs use it for one thing only. I'm going to show you the pans that chefs actually use, what we use them for. I'm even going to show you a pan you've probably never heard of that gets the perfect sear. But first, this is a non-stick pan, and you're probably using it wrong. Back in the day with my family, they cooked absolutely everything in a non-stick pan. That was just standard. I guess also, maybe it's the easiest way to cook. There's only really one time you see a non-stick pan in the kitchen, and that's for the breakfast service. Eggs go in. Once you see the bubbles forming, just take that into the middle, and you just draw the egg into the middle in a circular motion. We can see like how effortlessly, like you don't get that with any other pan. Non-stick gets a bad rep, in my opinion. This is the best of a bad bunch. Perfect, just leave it like that whilst everything else cooks. What's breakfast without a little bit of bacon? Right, so our tornado eggs, boom, 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 boom. Hit with a bit of pepper, a little bit of finishing salt. Streaky bacon. Oh. Crispy chili oil. Oh, what a treat. So look at that pan, completely non-stick. That's actually completely ready to go for the next order. Clean any residue out and literally just leave it there ready to go for the next one. Tornado eggs, crispy bacon. Don't mind if I do. So this is a stainless steel pan. Probably the biggest workhorse of any kitchen. The uses of a stainless steel pan are endless. So we're going to demonstrate the searing ability. Going to be doing a piece of salmon. Obviously you can do a steak in a stainless steel pan, no problem whatsoever. But what we wanted to do was demonstrate the key properties with a piece of fish. Okay, so the benefits of what we get with a stainless steel pan is the fond. And people are really scared of fish skin because they think it's going to get stuck. But the reality is, stainless steel, you need to use a little bit of lubricant or oil. But what it's really good at doing as building is a fond on the bottom of the pan. But the reason that the stainless steel pan is so effective is because it's super responsive to heat. It might not get as hot as other pans, but what you can do is whack up the heat nicely. But as soon as that fish skin's ready, it'll release from the bottom of the pan, and then we'll be able to turn the pan down just to finish the cooking with a bit of butter basting. Really high quality steel. These are from a company called Made In, which are, to be honest, they're one of the world leaders in this style of pan. These pans are probably the most versatile, probably the best value for money pans you can get on the market. Fish sticking in a pan is probably like what ultimately people are most nervous about. You can see the fish skin isn't quite ready to be released. Basically wait, and it's going to tell us when it's ready to go. It's such a nice flat surface. The heat is so responsive that if it smells like it's getting a little bit too dark or a little bit too burnt, or you can see that the heat is rising through the salmon too quickly, all you need to do is reduce the heat, and it's super responsive, so you can do it really delicately. So if you want to actually get really technical about why these pans are so good, they're 5-ply. So it basically means that they've got layers of steel mixed with aluminium. So the aluminium is super connective and super reactive, and the steel is ultra hard wearing. So between them, they leave the best quality of temperature control. Let's test this now. What we should have, there we go. See, look at that. So it lifts off perfectly. We've got a little bit of a fond on the bottom of the pan. We can just continue cooking. We can cook upwards of 70 pieces of fish a day. In a kitchen setting, it might seem expensive to buy a pan like this, but in a professional kitchen, if you buy this once, you basically won't ever need to replace it. It is a pan for life. So our fish now, basically 60% of the way there. Just going to take the pan off the induction. You can see that the line of the salmon is basically there. Just flip it and then cook all the same, garnish in the same pan. So fish ready, fish comes out. Stainless steel, the best pans to use to cook most things, especially when you want the added attention of extra heat for a crispy skin, but delicate cooking. We're getting up to like the elite level of pan here. But this is a carbon steel. So a carbon steel pan over a stainless steel pan is, just watch how quickly it heats up. It's unbelievable. From cold to smoking hot. The reason I have a carbon steel pan at home is this. I want to get an ultra sear on it, starting off with a fat cap. I basically want something that's ruthlessly hot, but also really, really reactive. So I've just turned the heat down there. I've got my initial sear on that fat, and then just lay the fat cap away from you. So I'm just flipping it every 20 seconds. So again, this pan, despite the fact that it's getting even hotter, you'll never ever feel that in the handle. Obviously this is an induction, but it's pretty much the same with gas. Because of the hollow handle here, you basically won't heat up because air doesn't carry as much heat for it. So the other thing about carbon steel is It heats up quicker. It's much less likely to warp. It also develops this layer of non-stick. So you get all the benefits of like when you cook a steak in there, you still get the fond. But whereas you're using a stainless steel pan, you need to really, really think about like basically using your oil, things stick into it if they're not properly oiled. The more you use it, the better it is. And also, the good things about this is made in again, but the good thing about made in pans is they already come pre-seasoned. So effectively, like a cast iron, this just it's way quicker to heat up than a cast iron, but it seasons itself in the same way. So the more you cook with it, the better that sort of non-stick layer gets over time. And then we can cool it down by adding the butter. So the main thing as well about why I love cooking a steak in this pan, so if you're at home and you're trying to cook multiple steaks at a time, I'm sure you've all been there, but the temperature of the pan drops. So what you get with this pan is it almost, it'll drop slightly, but like no other pan, it'll return to its heat, like its preheated state very, very quickly. So keep flipping whilst you're basting. Take a little bit of that fat onto the steak, and then we've got all of that goodness in the bottom of the pan, so we can just make a really quick pan jus. The best thing about it is just the utility. Like a cast iron pan will maintain its heat, so if you put your shallots straight in after the steak's gone in, they're going to burn. This one chills out quickly, but also you have the added benefit of it also getting hot a lot quicker. I think we bought these at the beginning of roe, which is 2 years, and they're the best they've ever been. Brandy, turn the heat up a little bit more, beef stock goes in, whack the heat right up, drop up a little bit of tarragon, and you can see how quickly that's reducing. The reactivity of the carbon steel and also sort of the flavour retention that you get off the steak from the fond on the bottom is second to none. My Diane sauce, I always add a splash of cream, always important to reduce the cream as well. I love a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in there as well. Tiny little bit of mustard there to finish. Nice big hit of black pepper. Woo, nice and fresh. A little bit of lemon juice. And then we finish with our fresh herbs. We've got tarragon here. Nice and thick, nice and glossy. Steak's finished resting. It's ready to serve. Always sauce onto the base of the plate. There we have it. Steak, Diane sauce, carbon steel pan, the Lamborghini of the pan world. Next up, the Saute Pan. The benefit to these pans is basically the shape. In order to sort of demonstrate that, I'm just going to make a really simple cacio e pepe. The main ingredient in a cacio e pepe to make it not just cheese, water and pepper is starch. And the main way that you develop that is through a process called mantecare. And that's the motion of rocking the pan back and forward, basically. This isn't just good for pasta, it's good for loads of different things. So what I like to do is just bring up this pan. Again, this is stainless steel, so nice and reactive, nice and quick. Don't kill me in the comments, but I always put a tiny, tiny little grate of garlic in there. A ladle of the pasta water to this mix, and a tiny little ladle to this mix. You see it's nice and loose. What we want that starch, as the pasta finishes cooking, to sort of mix with the pecorino, and through this process of emulsification, you'll get a really beautiful, glossy, thick sauce. And with the cacio e pepe, you want kind of the sauce to coat all the way around. So the shape of the pan here, just tossing this over, but keeping the temp nice and light, it's doing most of the work for you. Now you could use your tongs and you could go like this. That's what you see like crazy chefs doing, but there's something very delicate about just simply bringing it onto itself, almost like folding a bread dough. As it just finishes cooking, get a bit more control. It's a flick of the wrist. As if you're up north, they'd call you a proper tosser. And then use a natural sort of shape of the pan to just lightly take out that sauce. Beautiful, look at that, so nice and emulsified due to the shape of that stainless steel 5-ply pan. Look how beautiful and glossy that is, all covered. Don't hate me because it is garlic, Italians. We get over it. Oh! Tastes like Rome. So this is like a proper workhorse. So this pan takes a little bit longer than other pans to heat up. The benefit is it also takes a lot longer for it to cool down. Perfect thing to demonstrate, I think, a cast iron is something like a duck breast. The reason that it is perfect for something like duck is because when we're cooking duck, we want to start in a cold pan. Basically, as this pan heats up, the fat from the duck will render out. No fat needed. One thing that they're really good at is seasoning themselves. Similar to like all the pans we've used today, I think there's a general fear of things sticking. generally a little bit of confidence about heat transfer, and a little bit of knowledge of when the skin's ready, and having the confidence to sort of leave it for a little bit is kind of a bit of a game changer. One of the things I love about cooking something like in a cast iron as well is you can kind of leave these to do their thing. You know, like say if you've got multiple orders on at the same time, sometimes if you leave a pan on for too long, because of the reactivity of the metal, it's going to get really hot and it's going to scorch or burn something. I could leave this really, really happily right now. Just, you know, every now and then just checking on that duck. And basically, because of the thickness of the cast iron, it isn't really going to change too much. The other benefit of this pan is like all the pans we've done today, they're all really good quality. So basically, the heat exchange is completely even the whole way. So I've just got that tiny little bit of colour that I'm trying to form there before I finish the cooking. So our skin is nicely rendered. A little bit of butter goes in there just to foam. You can see the difference here of how much like the butter is like aggressively browning compared to the other pan. It cools down way quicker. So I know that this duck is basically going to be raw because I've cooked it almost the whole way on the top. But then all I need to do, I can leave this over there, still continue to cook for the next 6 minutes. It doesn't even need to be on the heat, it's going to be cooking. So our duck's been resting here really nicely just whilst we've been cooking a few other bits. It's on 56 degrees, that's absolutely perfect for a duck breast. So that's just come up really slowly to show that perfect cuisson, just go down the middle. Oh, perfectly rendered, perfect cuisson, no grey line because we didn't cook it too intensely. We let the pan do the work. Got this awesome, beautiful butter that the duck's been rested in that you could use to finish a sauce or a dish. For me, it's the reliable veteran of the kitchen. We've gone all the way from the modern shiny pans of the modern age, but we're still returning back to the old school, the old copper pan. They are, without dispute, the best, some of the best pans in the world for connectivity. The classical kitchen was always utilising them for sauces. They're incredibly good for reheating garnishes. They're good at holding their heat, and they look goddamn cool. With a beurre blanc, in a couple of seconds you could split a sauce. Demonstrates the superior thermal connectivity of a copper pan. Shallots. And then 2 parts white wine, 1 part white wine vinegar. We want to reduce this nice and fast. As you can see, the main benefit of this pan, boiling very, very consistently the whole way around, and it's ultra responsive. One thing you'll notice with a copper pan is the handles do actually get extremely hot. So like, unlike those the made-in pans that we were using before, torchon is an essential piece of kit for this reason. In old school kitchens, on a solid top, this whole thing is hot, not just the bottom. I'm going to add in a splash of cream, which is the secret to a beurre blanc. Always stops it from splitting. So you turn that heat off and you can see the bubbles stop pretty much instantly. And then this is really cold butter on and off the hob. You can use like the sides of the pan, similar to like when we were making the cacio e pepe, to give it a little bit of motion just to help the emulsification. Still, that shape is only going to help. Just waiting for all that butter to melt. Always best just to pass your sauce into a really nice, good quality saucepan. The main problem that goes wrong with a beurre blanc is that you'll put it into a cold pot and then it'll chill out during service and it'll essentially split. So having a really good quality saucepan is also a really good hack to keeping it nice and warm. Really good quality saucepan, then you can basically keep it warm like this, almost like in a bain-marie. Top it up with fresh herbs and that'll be super happy, nice and warm, good quality saucepan. Beurre blanc, copper pan, beautiful little saucepan. Next pan that we're going to do is a Saucier pan. So as you can see, quite similar to the Saute Pan, but more severe edges and much larger. This is a pan that's really good for braising, but also for caramelizing at the same time. So perfect for a casserole. What we're going to do at the moment is a really beautiful recipe called a fricassee. This, like some of the other stainless steel pans that we've been using today, is really, really good because it's 5-ply again, so ultra reactive, holds the heat really well and very flat bottom. So you basically don't get any sort of different spots. Now, when we were cooking the salmon on the first part of the video, we spoke about the skin sort of telling you when it's ready. But as with all stainless steel pans, it's still important to use oil. And then just lay the chicken skin side down into the pot. Kind of laying it in there almost the way you butchered it. You want to try and get a nice even coverage. Because of the nature of the pan, it's not non-stick. It will get this really nice colour forming on it as the chicken cooks. And that's really, really important for sort of creating a really nice crust on the outside of the chicken, but it's also important for creating a really beautiful depth of flavour in our base stock. I've literally not done anything to it. I've not touched it once, and you just get this golden colour that's been forming the whole time. But more importantly, it's not just on the chicken, it's forming all over the base of the pan. And that's important, you want to manage that as well. So really, we don't want that colour to turn anything other than golden. That's what we're looking for. Sometimes the hard part with pans, like when you're trying to do something like this, is this part will be coloured off, but there'll be no colour on any of the other bits. Look how even that colour is across every piece of chicken. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that fond. We're going to use lots of other sort of seasonings to the sauce. Benefit is you can use something like a metal pair of tongs on the bottom of that pan, nothing's going to happen to it. So just start off by getting a bit of bacon crispy. And you can see you're working the fond into the sauce already. Add in some shallots, crank up the heat. Beauty of a saucier pan like this, lid goes on, steam of the onions, that'll effectively get rid of the rest of the fond on the bottom. Fond has been sort of lifted off from the steam of the shallots. Touch of butter, turn it back up, and we want to get a bit of colour on the mushrooms. The heat's back up and we're back up to sort of frying and getting colour again to build layers of flavour in the sauce. The natural shape on it means that it's really easy to saute vegetables in here like that. Deglaze with white wine again, a few leaves of picked thyme. Once that booze has kind of started to reduce a little bit, add back in our chicken. Now you can thicken this before you do this stage, but I like to thicken it afterwards with a beurre manier. Lid goes on, and then that's set to braise for around about 25 to 35 minutes. It's now fully cooked, just gonna take this out, and then we'll finish the sauce. So cream goes into the sauce. Now we wanna reduce it quite hard, and then we're gonna add a beurre manier to thicken. Beurre manier goes in. It's quite saucy now. If you were doing this in a conventional pan, the sauce would be going all over the place. Beurre manier is basically just an upside down roof. Put it in at the end, not the beginning. Just add the chicken back in, tarragon, and then parsley. Whack that down in the middle of the table. Everyone will be scrambling around fighting over it. Super saucy. All of the caramelization is done in there, all the braising. The Saucier Pan. Okay, so the last pan that we're going to talk about today is an enamel pan. A lot of people get this as like a wedding present. We had one in our family home back in the day. I don't even know the brand. It had already worn off by the time that I'd used it. But my parents got given it as a wedding present. So these things really do sort of get passed down sort of among the family. And it's basically, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's a cast iron pot but coated in enamel. Normally what you're using this for is braising. Now I've said it before, I'll say it again. The only thing I really feel really strongly about is I hate slow cookers because when you've got a good enamel pot, I really don't ever see the need to do that. Primarily what you're going to use an enamel pot for is slow collagen breakdown. And the properties of the pan are quite simple. Like our cast iron, it's very good at rendering out fat, so when you're making the sauces at the beginning. It's very good at even temperature, so for browning meat. The lid is almost as important as the pot because as this braises, we're going to get a lot of collagen breakdown. Okay, so we can see that the browning has happened, but also the fat has been rendering out really nicely. And then look at all that fat that's left in the pan as well. Place the lid on just so the steam helps remove and loosen the fond on the bottom of the pan. So once that fond's been released, we're going to add our wine. So the cast iron being coated in enamel means that you can use something like the red wine really effectively in a braise without affecting the sort of lifespan of the pan. The weight of this lid is going to trap all of that steam in there as it cooks. Collagen breakdown in meat happens at around about 85 degrees, held at a certain amount of time. That's why this is the best pot to braise in. Okay, so it's been in the oven now for about 3.5 hours. For some reason, when you use a slow cooker, everything tastes like boiled meat. But an enamel pan, the circulation of the meat, the reduction of the sauce, because it happens all around in that really beautiful cast iron sort of coated layer, always tastes so much better. It's getting heat from the top, it's getting heat from the bottom, but the weight of the lid is sealing all of the steam in, which circulates and slowly breaks down the collagen, melting apart. Oh, look at that.